everyone knows that it's against the law to drive a scooter without a helmet. But when Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari did precisely this, he seems to have got away with it. Worse, when questioned, he allegedly said the law didn't apply in Nagpur. The truth is it does, but the police have failed to act. So tonight we take a closer look at this sorry story and ask, what does it reveal about ministers, the police and the sense of equality in the eyes of the law that should apply to all of us? My guests are one of India's most famous police officer, Kiran Bedi. She'll be joining us in a moment. The well-known Bombay-based journalist Kumar Ketkar, former Congress Minister Manishankar Iyer and BJP spokesperson Shaina NC. Manishankar Iyer, on Saturday, Nitin Gadkari deliberately and defiantly drove a scooter in Nagpur without a helmet. Now, as someone who, like Gadkari, is an MP and has been a minister, how do you respond to this?
Well, it just shows the complete callous disregard for the law that the BJP leadership has, and this is a blatant example of that. And the kind of argument that's now being put forward to justify it is completely untenable, because it is the duty of the transport minister to set the example for all those who ride scooters dangerously without helmets.
So in other words, this is absolutely...
He deserves to be arrested and marched to jail.
Well, arrest may be more than the law warrants in this instance, but a fine is what is required, and that hasn't been imposed. Let me put it like this, Kumar Ketkar. Nitin Gadkari is not just a minister, he is actually the Minister for Road Transport, which is the ministry that is responsible for imposing fines for traffic violations. Secondly, virtually the day after he took over, he said on record that no one would be spared for violating traffic rules, whether they were, as he put it, politicians or journalists. Do those two facts make his transgression even worse?
Well, actually it does, but he is a Philistine showman, and he thought that he would be actually identifying more with the common people, more with the two-wheeler riders, and that's why he thought that he can go without helmet. Actually, he could have simply paid fine and said that I'm sorry, I did not quickly realize that I was not wearing helmet, and the problem would have been over, completely sorted out. But he tried to make itself into his glory, sort of, and that is the Philistine way in which Gadkari operates. We have been always knowing him like this. So I am not really surprised the way he behaved himself. He often behaves on many occasions in different situations in the same way. Actually, many people in his party are quite embarrassed by him, but they don't speak up.
Kiran Bedi, the truth is that Nitin Gadkari not only arrived at the RSS headquarters driving a scooter without a helmet, but he did the same thing when he left the RSS headquarters after his meeting with the Sangh Chalak. Secondly, when questioned by the press and asked why he wasn't wearing a helmet, he either refused to answer, if you go by what the Indian Express says, or he allegedly said the law does not apply in Nagpur, which is clearly not the case. So I put it to you, this is not just a case of accidental forgetfulness, this is a case of deliberate defiance.
It's a mindset, it's a culture. This is the VIP culture which we grow up with. One set of rules for the VIPs and another set of rules for the common man. Similarly is the impact on the enforcement. That's why if you even saw the police officer said he's going to inquire into, when it was so evident that he had driven without a helmet. I think this is what has happened. This is the way we as a public service deliver, and this is exactly how the leadership gets it delivered. That is why we do not have something called the rule of law in this country, which is equivalent. So I think what he was reflecting is exactly the work culture which we are suffering from. Two sets of rules and also two kinds of responses by the public officials. All it needed was, actually he should have himself volunteered to have been fined. Volunteered to have been fined. That's what happens in other countries. Princes and kings, princes and these VIP sons and daughters do get fined. Well, he could have also been fined. He should have accepted it and apologized it. But that's not our work culture. That's not our leadership culture. That's not our public service culture.
Shaina NC, let me put this to you. A very simple question. You're a spokesperson for the BJP. How do you today defend your minister?
Karan, let me be absolutely honest and fair vis-a-vis your question. Number one, There are cities like Chandigarh, there are cities like Delhi where there is compulsory mention that you have to wear a helmet on a two-wheeler. Now that is amply and specifically specified. In Nagpur, however, it is not mentioned that it is 100% compulsory. I do concede.
Can I correct you? Can I correct you? Can I correct you? I'm stopping you because I want to correct you. The Nagpur Traffic Police website, mark my words, the Nagpur Traffic Police website makes it crystal clear that not wearing a helmet would attract a fine of ₹100 under Section 177 of the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. So forgive me, it is absolutely compulsory in Nagpur.
Let me please conclude what I want to say. The distance that was being travelled by Mr. Gadkari from his home in interior Nagpur, which I have visited myself, to the RSS headquarters is not even 400 meters, and it is on a very narrow interior road of the city.
Are you saying a small infringement of the law over 400 meters is acceptable? Because that is peculiar logic. I am not for 1 minute
saying that he did not wrong. I am not for 1 minute.
No,
if you
but what
please
you're
let
saying
me
is he
conclude.
only
I
did
would
it for
love it
400
if you don't
meters.
interject so you hear
what you're saying
exactly
is he
what
only
I'm saying.
did the wrong for 400 meters, therefore it's not such a big wrong. If had he done it for a mile, it would have been a different matter.
One moment, Karanji, if you give me an opportunity to please explain myself, I would be highly appreciated.
When you were wrong on facts, then you seem to be wrong on saying a small fault is not a real fault.
No, because I have spoken before coming on your show. I have spoken to the traffic authorities in Nagpur and in Maharashtra. Yes, there is need to be extremely explicit, saying it is 100% compulsory, which currently it is not.
All right.
And I can constantly defute what you're saying or argue with you, but the point is, yes, I concede, as somebody who is a representative of the public and a minister vis-a-vis this particular transport, etc., roads, etc., he should have set an example by wearing a helmet.
Let me bring in Mani Shankar Iyer. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you there. You made 2 points. I've questioned them. I don't want to be the only one who questions them. I'm going to give a chance to Mani Shankar Iyer first. Mani Shankar Iyer, do you accept the point that this infringement was only for a 400-meter distance? Therefore, it shouldn't be taken note of. Had it been for a longer distance, it would have been a bigger infringement. How do you respond to that specific answer?
My first answer is that anybody who is a...
Go ahead, Mani Shankar Iyer.
I believe that anyone who is as obese as Mr. Gadkari is should walk for 400 meters and not take scooter.
Don't be personal.
And
let's
secondly,
stick to the point.
If he chooses to take a scooter,
typical of you, Mr.
then he
Iyer.
must set an example to the country as a whole and not try to hide behind technicalities. He has violated the law, and as such, the small fine that is to be paid, he should have paid it and set a further example of being a minister who does acknowledge that he's made a mistake. Otherwise, his behavior is pecksmithian, which means that it is hypocritical.
Kiran Bedi, I want to bring you in as a former police officer and put that point to you as well. What you've heard from Shaina NC is that it was only a distance of 400 meters. Secondly, she says it was on narrow back roads, not on main roads. And therefore, the fact that he didn't follow the law and infringed it doesn't really matter. First, tell me, as a police person, does a small infringement not matter? Can it be condoned and excused just because it's for over a length of 400 meters?
The law doesn't make this exception. It doesn't make this exception. And I think only choice with Mr. Gadkari is to correct the wrong and say he regrets it and he'd like to pay the fine. I think it will correct the damage done. That's the only choice. Otherwise, law makes no exception.
Okay. Can I put something else to you? The second point made by Shaina NC is that, in fact, in Nagpur, unlike, she said, cities like Chandigarh and Delhi, it's not crystal clear whether it's compulsory to wear the helmet or not. I quoted to her in response the website of the Nagpur Traffic Police, which makes it crystal clear that if you don't wear a helmet on a scooter, a fine of ₹100 is attracted under Section 177 of the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. Would you accept that argument that it's not crystal
Could
clear,
be.
that it's not crystal clear, and therefore Mr. Gadkari can get away with it because it's a grey area?
Well, if the website says it, Shaina, then obviously that would be the latest situation, and that needs to be accepted.
Kiranji, I would request you to please look into it yourself. Before coming on this show, I have had full clarity where it says it could be to the discretion of the person to charge a fine or not. Now, isn't that an area of grey? I am not for 1 minute saying...
Your own language goes against you. It could be to the discretion of the person to charge a fine or not. The charging of the fine is to the discretion of the police, not the wearing of the helmet. You're claiming the wearing of the helmet is not compulsory. Your own statement just now has disproved you. I'm sorry. Your honesty and your correct record of memory has actually given the game away. I'm going to go to Kumar Ketkar at that point. Mr. Ketkar, what do you make of the fact that these pictures of Mr. Gadkari have been on the front pages and inside pages of newspapers? They've been all over television, and yet, and this is the critical point, the police have not acted. If you and I were to drive a scooter without a helmet, we would be instantly fined. But Mr. Gadkari hasn't been fined.
In Mumbai, I see hundreds of without helmet driver riders are being picked up by the police every day. But the question is not that. Kiran, what Kiran Bedi is saying is absolutely true. It's not a question of 400 meters. It's a question of our attitude towards the so-called VIPs, so-called leaders, and the so-called common people. But the point is, suppose it was Rahul Gandhi who was riding this for 400 or less than that, 200 meters, Narendra Modi would have gone to all public meetings saying that the prince is allowed to do anything, and he would have shouted at the audience there saying that look where our country has gone. So only when Nitin Gadkari does it, it's a small thing, small violation, we can ignore it and we can forget it. But let me tell you, Nitin Gadkari wanted to pretend as if he is so common a person that he can get along with the people without helmet, without simple, absolutely simplistic lifestyle. That's his approach, that's his philistinical approach, and he has always been like this.
All right. Kiran Bedi, I want to put one other thing to you. In
Mr.
one of your earlier
Ketkar,
answers, I'm going to Kiran Bedi.
May I just make a quick point?
Wait a moment, Shaina, and see, I'll come back to you in due course. Kiran Bedi, I want to put a point to you. In one of your earlier answers, you referred to how the Joint Police Commissioner, a gentleman called Anup Kumar Singh, had said that he needs to investigate before he acts. I'm going to quote to you exactly what he said to the Times of India. I'll have to look into the issue and wait for the police commissioner who is on leave to return. In other words, not only does he need to investigate, he needs to consult his boss to find out whether he should take action against a minister. And I suppose I can understand it because the poor chap must be understandably a bit concerned. Maybe there'll be retribution on him. But does this not show up the police in a bad light? Does it not also suggest that this poor officer is somehow intimidated by politicians?
No, it's reflecting the culture. It's a subservient culture. And officers just lose the strength of spine over the years. Something which a head constable should have done, has gone up to the level of a joint commissioner who wants to ask the commissioner. This is the job of a head constable if authorized to fine. A head constable can fine, an ASI can fine. So something which an ASI should have done is going up. That's our culture of the service. And that's why we don't have a rule of law. We have two sets of rules.
Mani, before I go to Shaina and see, I'm going to put that wider point that is being made very eloquently by Kiran Bedi. At the end of the day, it is Mr. Gadkari who's been caught today, poor chap, with a helmet, and we're discussing him. The truth is that in India, politicians of all stripes and all colors believe they're above the law, they're a rule unto themselves, they can act with impunity, nothing happens. That wider culture that I can do what I want and get away with it because I'm powerful, I'm connected, is the way the rich and the powerful behave in India. Would you accept that? Mani Iyer?
Oh, I accept that is the culture, and it is for this government which claims to be making a huge difference, especially at so senior a level as Gadkari, to set the example. What's his problem in paying a 100 rupee fine?
Absolutely. But do you not accept that Congress ministers, UPA ministers would have probably been caught in very similar circumstances and behaved very similarly as well? Mr. Gadkari may be the subject tonight, but he's not unique in that sense.
No, but his government claims to be unique, and therefore let them start by setting an example.
Shaina, and see, that in a sense is another point I want to put to you. Has Mr. Gadkari embarrassed Mr. Modi? After all, Mr. Modi believes in the rule of law. He believes that, in fact, we are all equal under the eyes of the law, that ministers should be treated specially. The Shahzada, as he called Rahul Gandhi, was an example of the sort of thing Mr. Modi doesn't want emulated by his ministers. And now you have Mr. Gadkari behaving like a mini Shahzada himself. So has Mr. Modi been embarrassed by a cabinet minister?
Well, you'll have to ask Mr. Modi himself. I speak as a small karyakarta of the party, and I'd like to definitely say that I've heard many arguments on this debate, a lot of which are legitimate, that yes, road safety, road security is a must, minister himself must wear a helmet, etc. My only contention is too that there is an area of grey vis-a-vis whether it is compulsory or not compulsory in Nagpur, which is something that needs to also be amended. Second is that yes, was there an error at his end? Clearly there was. The distance was 400 meters. It was not the main VIP roads. This was an interior, literally like a small passage through. Question is that are we making a mountain out of a molehill? I personally feel the fact that we're discussing this, if it was just about road security and road safety, clearly we must.
It's not about road safety. It's not about road safety. It's about ministers breaching the law with impunity and no action being taken. It's a different issue. It's not road safety. It's whether you and I and ministers are equal under the eyes of the law. It's a different issue. Don't reduce it to something small and frivolous.
Absolutely we are. Absolutely we are.
Kiran Bedi, let me put this to you. Is this a small, insignificant little issue? Are we picking on Nitin Gadkari by highlighting it and discussing it? Or has Mr. Gadkari erred, and does he need now to be told by the Indian public this is not acceptable? Which of the two is your position?
I think the people have already told him. The very fact that we are debating it, the people have already told him. And it is not, it is a minor offense, let's say, 100 rupee fine. But it assumes significance because it's done by the key minister himself, who's promoting road safety, who's drafting a new law, and who is talking about safety belts, etc. He's been very, very vocal and very forthright and very, I think it's been wonderful I was hearing the other day how he's redrafting. So it becomes an issue, a major issue, because it's coming from the same man who is re-amending Motor Vehicle Act.
Absolutely. Let me end by putting this to Kumar Ketkar. If the police fail to act, and they have for 48 hours, do you suspect that they're under pressure from the government? After all,
They're always under pressure from government. And let me agree with Manishankar Iyer that even congressmen in Maharashtra, in Mumbai, often don't pay toll, go without helmet or things like that. But the point is, it is necessary for a minister who is transport minister, and transport minister Mr. Gadkari had immediately given an interview saying that he wants to alter all the things of RTO which are not being followed. He wanted to revamp the RTO and the entire transport system and the law, related to law. And that he has not done. In fact, his personal experience shows that he doesn't want to do anything.
All right. That's a very good point on which to end. It's a paradox which shows up that people need to practice what they preach.
If I can just add one point.
Very quickly, because we literally went out of time. 10 seconds. Go ahead. 10 seconds.
You know, the draft bill has suggestions on the website itself, inviting all stakeholders as well as general public for their suggestions. So I think that this should be open forum for everyone to put in their request.
Except Shaina, and then a draft bill is not an act. A draft bill is a draft, not an act. It's not the law. So please, don't confuse us with the details that actually could be.
That is why I'm saying the areas of grey need to be cleared out.
But look, the Nagpur website makes it clear it's not an area of grey, but I'll let you have the last word, and for this show, insist it is. My thanks to all of you for joining me, and there we end this particular episode. If you have been, thanks for watching.